Look up Trump's parents' full name. Yeah, I know. Frederick Christ Trump. Going all the way back to Johannes Christ. This is Donald Trump's grandmother, Elizabeth Christ. German descent. And she became Elizabeth Christ Trump when she married Frederick Trump. Interesting story there, too. Trump's entire family history is rather interesting. Now, of course, because we live in this country that keeps people stupid, or wants to keep people stupid, you will get the people that then want to claim that, that's Trump is the beast, he's from Germany. That's what they tried to do early on. He has German roots, so he's some antichrist. Yeah, so Jesus made it very simple and said, you will know them by their deeds. But I see tons of videos, they've slowed down now, that have carried on about Trump being some antichrist. And it's like, okay, yes, so he was trying to eradicate human trafficking, slavery, really, modern day slavery. And, something that was a huge, huge issue going on in the Bible. And so to then call him an antichrist means you disregard Jesus's word altogether and say, I'm just going to look at what, because he has roots to Germany, that, it just lacks understanding. It's stupid. So, anyway, so yeah, this is Elizabeth Trump. So, Elizabeth Christ was born in Karlstad, Kingdom of Bavaria, German Empire, the daughter of Philip Christ and Anna Marie Anthon. Her father was a descendant of Johannes Christ of Florschum. I know I'm mispronouncing it because it's German. Florschum Hesse, through his father, and an organ builder, Johanna Michael Hardug, through his mother. The family owned a small vineyard. However, the income provided by that was not adequate to meet their needs, and Philip Christ worked as a tinker, repairing and polishing old utensils and selling pots and pans. He ran his trade from his house on Friesenheimer Strasse in Karlstad, which was just across the street from the home of Katharina Trump, an elderly widow who lived with her 6 children, including Frederick. And Frederick Trump immigrated to America in 1885 at the age of 16 and made his fortune with restaurants and during the Klondike Gold Rush. When he returned to Germany in 1901, he wooed Elizabeth over the objections of his mother, who felt that her prosperous son could and should find a bride from a wealthier and more refined family than that of Elizabeth. Nonetheless, Frederick and Elizabeth married August 26, 1902. He was 33 years of age at the time, and she was 21. Frederick and Elizabeth moved to New York, and they set up a house in an apartment in the predominantly German quarter of the Bronx. And Frederick worked as a restaurant and hotel manager. Their first child, Elizabeth, was born April 30th, 1904. Following the death of her husband, Elizabeth Trump continued the real estate business that they had begun. She had contractors build houses on empty lots. Frederick had sold the houses, and earned income off the mortgages she provided to buyers. Her vision was to have her 3 children continue the family business. And of course, one of her children was Fred Christ Trump, Donald Trump's father. And so she, initially she operated under the name E. Trump. In 1924, she switched to E. Trump and Sons for advertising purposes. So Christ was a common surname in Germany. What do you know? I had come across this, and what this title means is Johannan. I'm sorry, not Johannan. It means John, Jesus, January. I can't find a lot about it because I translated from German, but I can't. So yeah, what's interesting about this is one of the most earliest Christian communities was the Johannine community, believed to have been started by the disciple John. And when you look into her parents and try to go back far enough, it gets lost after when you go, there's kind of that break where you can't seem to get any further. But it goes back to a Johannes Christ the First Christian community, Johannine, and they weren't really known for actually having a church. They moved, it seemed, or it was out of their homes. It was very interesting, but it based very much on their philosophy. And this is a painting of John, younger John. Now this is the same John that wrote the last book of the Bible. Many people say that John was, it's debated whether was he the favorite disciple. He was the one in the famous picture of the Last Supper. He has his head on Jesus's chest, and he asks Jesus, the one whom Jesus, in the Gospel of John, a disciple who is not named is always spoken with the phrase, the one whom Jesus loved. Therefore, the disciple has the name in the Christian tradition, favorite disciple. According to the closing word of the Gospel, that's John 20, 21, 24. However, the Gospel, as well as the rest of the New Testament literature, does not clearly identify this person with one of the apostles. Therefore, an identity is undetermined. So, the Johannine movement it's referring to the Johannine community. It was an early Christian group centered around the teachings found in the Gospel of John. Most especially the epistles and the Revelation. The community emphasized Jesus as God and the King. So it was formed by Jewish Christians who believed Jesus was the Messiah, but eventually separated from the Jewish synagogues due to theological differences. Yeah, that was a good idea because Jesus was calling all of those people out. They weren't getting it. You know how we're told to listen to the experts and the scholars? That's how I look at the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees, that Jesus was constantly woeing and saying, you don't get it at all, but everybody follows you down the path of destruction. That's what we have going on today. That's what scholars and experts and scribes are, especially when it comes to the Bible. So they focused on Christology, emphasizing Jesus was the divinity, eternal, pre-existence, and salvation role. The rituals were similar to other Christian groups, but with a unique spiritual emphasis, guided by the Holy Spirit. Key. And of course, our current nowadays scribes and Pharisees, which we call scholars, they remain debated over the existence of it. Yeah, well, but that's the scribes and the scholars of our current day. They're always atheists, so they're the worst experts to ever listen to. Or they've been trained by the seminary school that Satan set up. But they were Jews. They were Jews that left the synagogue because they figured out what Jesus was trying to say. So, and yet Elizabeth Christ goes back to Johannes Christ the First.